Hi everyone, welcome back to English with Emma. Today you'll learn when to use the past simple tense, the past continuous tense, and when to use the past simple and past continuous together. Let's get started. Let's start by looking at the structure of positive phrases in the past simple tense. We use the subject plus the past simple form of the verb, which I call V2 or verb 2. I enjoyed the film last night. For the negative, we use the subject plus did not or didn't plus the infinitive of the verb. I didn't enjoy the film last night. For questions, we start with did plus the subject plus the infinitive. Did I enjoy the film last night? Notice how it's only in the positive phrases that we have to use the past simple form of the verb. In questions and negatives, we use did and the infinitive. If you'd like more information about the structure and also the spelling rules, then take a look at my video, Past Simple Tense. When do we use the past simple? For finished past actions with a time clause. A time clause is a word or phrase that tells you when an action happened. I walked to school yesterday. Here, yesterday is the time clause. It tells you when the action happened. We played tennis yesterday. She studied German last year. I cooked an egg for breakfast this morning. They wanted to go to the park last Saturday. I watched an interesting film last night. I finished my book last Tuesday. She passed her maths exam yesterday. We also use the past simple tense with ago to indicate how much time has passed since an action happened. I finished school 4 years ago. The action finished in 2016, and 4 years have passed since that time. I saw him 3 years ago. She finished my book 2 months ago. I got home 10 minutes ago. They finished university 20 years ago. I went to the cinema 6 weeks ago. I lost my phone 2 days ago. We finished the course a month ago. Your friend called half an hour ago. Now let's look at the structure of the past continuous tense. For positive phrases, we start with the subject plus was or were plus the verb with ing. I was speaking. You were speaking. For negatives, we start with the subject plus was or were not plus the verb with ing. Was not can be contracted to wasn't, and were not can be contracted to weren't. The contracted forms wasn't and weren't are much more natural in speaking. I wasn't speaking. You weren't speaking. For the question, we start with was or were plus the subject plus the verb with ing. Was I speaking? Were you speaking? Now, if you'd like more detailed information on the structure and if you'd like to see the spelling rules of this tense, then have a look at my video, Past Continuous Tense. When do we use the past continuous? For actions that are in progress at a specific time in the past. The action started before the specific past time and may or may not continue after. What were you doing at 10 o'clock? I was singing at 10 o'clock. I wasn't singing at 10 o'clock.
I was reading. I was singing at 7 p.m. He was cooking when I called him. He wasn't studying at 4 o'clock. What were you doing at 7 a.m.? I was sleeping at 7 a.m. They were watching TV at 11 o'clock. We were sleeping when the alarm went off. We also used the past continuous tense to set the scene in a story. So that's to give background information. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. The beach was busy that day. Children were playing and people were sunbathing. Everyone was sitting quietly, reading their books and waiting for the class to start. We also used the past continuous for an action in progress that was interrupted by another action. And we use the past simple for the interrupting action. So, let's look at the past simple and past continuous together. An action in progress was interrupted by another action. We use when and while. When is followed by the past simple tense, and while is followed by the past continuous tense. Now, there are 4 different ways that we can structure the phrases with when and while. We can start with the past continuous plus when plus the past simple. Let's see some examples. I was listening to music when the taxi arrived. Notice that the longer action, listening to music, is with the past continuous, and the short interrupting action, the taxi arrived, is with the past simple. I was reading when my mum called. He was cooking when the fire alarm went off. I was walking to work when I saw you. We were doing yoga when we had an accident. He was watching TV when he heard the news. We can also start with when, plus the past simple, plus a comma, and then the past continuous. If we start the phrase with when, it's important to use the comma before the past continuous. When the taxi arrived, I was listening to music. The meaning is the same as the previous phrase. I was listening to music when the taxi arrived. Only the structure is different. When my mum called, I was reading. When the fire alarm went off, he was cooking. When I saw you, I was walking to work. When we had an accident, we were doing yoga. When he heard the news, he was watching TV. The third way is to start with the past simple, plus while, plus the past continuous. The taxi arrived while I was listening to music. My mum called while I was reading. The fire alarm went off while he was cooking. I saw you while I was walking to work. We had an accident while we were doing yoga. He heard the news while he was watching TV. And the final way that we can combine these 2 tenses is to start with while, plus the past continuous, and a comma, plus the past simple. So if we start the phrase with while, it's necessary to use a comma before the past simple. While I was listening to music, the taxi arrived. While I was reading, my mum called. While he was cooking, the fire alarm went off. While I was walking to work, I saw you. While we were doing yoga, we had an accident. While he was watching TV, he heard the news. Let's see one more example of how you can use the past simple and past continuous in 4 different ways with no change in the meaning. I was singing when the phone rang. When the phone rang, I was singing. The phone rang while I was singing. While I was singing, the phone rang. So in all phrases, the meaning is the same. We use the past continuous for the longer action and the past simple for the shorter interrupting action. While always appears before past continuous, and when always appears before the past simple. And if we start the phrase with when or while, then we must use a comma. Okay, so that's everything you need to know about combining the past simple and the past continuous tenses.
Thank you for watching, guys. If you found the video useful, then hit like, and if you'd like to see more, then subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. See you next time. Bye.